Good afternoon. As you heard from our friend Amy, the Secretary General is speaking this morning with member states in a closed interactive session on the common agenda. They're discussing how to follow up on the declaration of the commemoration of the 75th anniversary of the UN, and as you know, that declaration calls on the Secretary General to deliver a report on the common agenda, which he will. This morning, our Deputy Secretary General, Mina Mohammed, arrived in London on a trip to meet senior UK government officials and other stakeholders to discuss efforts towards achieving the Sustainable Development Goals and tackling climate change. As you know, the UK will host the next COP meeting in Glasgow in November. She will be back in the office on Monday. And this morning, the Security Council held its biannual briefing on West Africa and the Sahel. The special representative, the Secretary General and the head of the Office for West Africa and the Sahel, Mahatma Saleh Anadif, stressed to the Council members that the UN system is fully mobilized to ensure development aid efficiently reaches the people of the Sahel through inclusive, sustainable, and people-centered responses. Mr. Anadif said that in the face of persistent farmer-herder conflicts across the region, his office continues to co-chair the UN regional working groups on farmer-herder issues and conflict prevention. His full remarks have been shared with you. Also this morning, the Security Council held a private meeting on the situation in Haiti. The Special Representative, the Secretary General and head of the political office, Helen Lalim, is briefing Council members, and she will be speaking to you afterwards in a virtual stakeout. She'll be beamed in here and will moderate from here. If it happens in the middle of the briefing, we'll interrupt to take her. And at 3 p.m. this afternoon, if the day wasn't busy enough, the Council will convene in person on a briefing on the ongoing disagreement involving Egypt, Ethiopia, and Sudan regarding the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam under the agenda Peace and Security in Africa. There will be two UN briefers. One is the Special Envoy of the Secretary General for the Horn of Africa, our friend Parfait Onanga Anyanga. He is expected to stress how more needs to be done given the recent negotiations have yielded little progress. It is undeniable that this is a matter of critical importance, that is the dam. Also briefing will be the Executive Director of the UN Environment Programme, Inger Anderson. She will underscore the readiness of the UN system to assist the parties in any way we can. Those remarks will be shared with you around 1:30, 2 o'clock under embargo, both of theirs. You will have noted that last night we issued a statement marking the grim mark of 4 millionth death due to the COVID-19 virus. In his statement, the Secretary General noted that this tragic toll is more than the population of 1 out of 3 countries on Earth. He noted that while vaccines offer a ray of hope, the virus will be outpacing vaccine distribution. Secretary General stressed how millions or more are at risk if the virus is allowed to spread like wildfire. The more it spreads, the more variants we see. Variants are more transmissible, more deadly, and more likely to undermine the effectiveness of the current vaccines. Bridging the vaccine gap requires the greatest global public health effort in history, he said, calling for a global vaccine plan. Also staying on topic, the World Health Organization today said that Africa has marked its worst pandemic week ever. The virus cases have risen for several consecutive weeks since the start of the third wave in May. During the week ending on July 4th, more than 251,000 new cases were recorded, a 20% increase over the previous week. They warned that the worst is yet to come, with the end of the precipitous rise in cases still weeks away. WHO said there are signs of progress as the vaccine front, with COVAX deliveries in Africa picking up pace. In the past 2 weeks, more than 1.6 million doses were delivered, and an additional 20 million doses are expected to arrive soon from the US through COVAX. Staying on the continent on the same topic, the UN team in Malawi, led by resident coordinator Maria Jose Torres Macho, is working to help the Malawian authorities to address the multiple effects of the pandemic. COVID-19 infections have risen sharply there in the past months, and the government is restricting travel and public gathering to reduce spread of the virus. To address the shortage, WHO and UNICEF are facilitating the delivery of the remaining 900,000 vaccine doses through COVAX. The agencies are also helping authorities to intensify the screening of travelers, testing, and contact tracing. We've provided over nearly 10,000 kits, and the UN team is working to promote the prevention and spread of COVID-19 through communication campaigns and community engagement. We've also provided cash transfers to more than 100,000 of the most vulnerable people to cushion the economic impact of the virus. And from South Sudan, ahead of the country's 10th anniversary tomorrow of its historic achievement of independence, the UN peacekeeping mission there said that there is an important opportunity to inject fresh momentum into the peace process to deliver the stability, peace, and prosperity that the country's citizens deserve. The Secretary General Special Representative said that tomorrow we are to celebrate this important occasion alongside the people of South Sudan who fought long and hard for their independence and endured great suffering to secure a better life for themselves and future generations. The UN mission says that while significant progress has been made since the signing of the 2018 peace deal, the implementation of the realized agreement is slow and peace remains fragile. With a lack of unified security force, insecurity due to intercommunal fighting, and crime driven by economic deprivation. Mr. Haysom urged the country's political leaders to seize this opportunity to make the hopes and dreams of a decade ago a reality by securing the sustainable peace needed to enable full recovery and development. He stressed the need to fully implement the revitalized peace agreement and for the international community to continue its support for the country. Couple of climate notes. This morning, the Secretary General spoke via pre-recorded video message to the first Climate Vulnerable Finance Summit hosted by Bangladesh. Mr. Guterres said that he is inspired by the leadership of the climate vulnerable countries who stand in the front lines of the climate crisis and continue to take climate action even as they continue to suffer the consequences of the COVID-19 pandemic. The Secretary General also said the COP26 in Glasgow for it to be a success, we need to see the same level of commitment from all countries. He noted that developing countries will also need reassurances that their ambitions will be met with financial and technical support. Solidarity begins with $100 billion, he said, adding he will emphasize this point to the G20 finance ministers at their meeting in Venice tomorrow. And today, the World Meteorological Organization and its partners released the first Hydromet gap report. The report says an estimated 23,000 lives per year could be saved and potential benefits for at least $162 billion per year could be realized by improving weather forecast, early warning systems, and climate information, known as Hydromet. In a message, the Secretary General said these services are essential for building resilience in the face of climate action. In particular, noted that small island developing states and least developed countries could benefit for the most improving their basic weather data. He called on donors for the multilateral development banks and private finance institutions to work with vulnerable countries with the development of innovative financial instruments to make this a reality. And the High-Level Forum for Economic and Social Council continued today in a morning session, which explored the situation and linkages among the SDG Goal 3, 10, 16, and 17. The discussion intensified ways forward towards a more peaceful, equitable, equal, and inclusive societies, including next steps in the health response to the pandemic, protecting past advances in the areas of health. It also addressed the issues of inequalities within and across countries. This morning also included a short session on how to support local authorities in implementing the SDGs and how to build voluntary local reviews. Also, the President of the Economic and Social Council, Munir Akram, as well as the President of the Ad Hoc ECOSOC Group on Haiti, issued statements and condolences on the death of the Haitian President Jovenel Moïse. Of course, the Security Council President also did the same. Almost done. A new study released today by the UN Office of Drugs and Crime shows that the devastating impact on COVID-19 has had on victims and survivors of human trafficking. According to the report, traffickers took advantage of the global crisis, capitalizing on people's losses in income and increased amount of time for both adults and children were spending online. The study found that children are being increasingly targeted by traffickers who are using social media and other online platforms to recruit new victims and profit from increased demand for child sexual exploitation material. It's a tragic report that is worth to be looked at. Quick note from WFP and UNICEF, which said today that at least 80,000 children under the age of 5 are currently at risk of severe acute malnutrition across the Central African Republic. This is a 29% increase compared to the projections of 2021. UN agencies also warned that more than 632,000 people, which represents more than 1 in 8 persons in Central African Republic, will fall into a catastrophic hunger situation between the first week of July and the end of the lean season without urgent action. And also on the issue of food, our colleagues in Rome at the FAO today said that food commodity prices fell in June for the first time in 12 months. FAO food price index was down 2.5% from May, but still 33.9% higher than the same period last year. FAO noted the drop in June reflected declines in the prices of vegetable oil, cereals, and somewhat more moderately, dairy products. According to the latest crop prospect and food situation report, which also will be released today, the effects of the pandemic have increased vulnerabilities and heightened existing levels of food insecurity. FAO assesses that globally, 45 countries, including 34 in Africa, 9 in Asia, and 2 in Latin America and the Caribbean, are in need of external food assistance. And lastly, I was asked about the recent demolition of Palestinian housing, and I just want to update that yesterday in the Jordan Valley, representatives from OCHA, non-governmental organizations and member states sought to gain access to the community of Huma al-Bakia, but were refused access by the military while the demolitions were taking place. As of noon today, no assistance had been allowed in, and an OCHA team had entered the community, but was requested to leave the site by Israeli forces. The Secretary General is indeed very deeply concerned about the destruction of Palestinian property in the Bedouin community of Humsa al-Bakia in Area C of the occupied West Bank. He reiterates his call on the Israeli authorities to cease demolitions and seizures of Palestinian property in the occupied West Bank. Such actions are contrary to international law and could undermine the chances for establishment of a viable, contiguous Palestinian state. One second. Benno, now you know where I do my drinking. Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's go to Celia. Go ahead.
Stéphane, regarding those 80,000 children who are at risk of severe malnutrition, is it because WFP cannot deliver the food? Is it because they lack the money to deliver the food? Is it because of the security? What is the reason?
It's a combination, right? Our humanitarian appeals, whether in Central Africa or other places, are severely underfunded. I mean, as you know, the UN humanitarian system works on an as-needed basis, right? There's an emergency, we do an appeal. We have a bit of reserve cash through the Central Emergency Response Fund, but that's really just a very small, though very important, Band-Aid. So it's a mix of lack of funds and lack of security. Yeah.
You said that the SG and the DSG are away.
No.
Who is leading? Yeah.
No, the SG is
She's
here.
in London.
The SG Secretary's here. I mean,
okay.
I saw a man who looked like him this morning, and he called me, and I mean, I didn't ask him where he was, but he's here.
Okay, because I was going to ask who is leading.
No. That's okay. James and Fetty, and then Edie.
Okay, on the last item you read on the demolitions, you said the Secretary-General was deeply concerned, but what does he make of the fact that OCHA representatives were not allowed to attend and then were told to leave? Does he think that is acceptable?
No, we need to have the access in order to provide humanitarian assistance and to assess the situation as needed.
The Secretary-General's COVID statement today, the more the virus spreads, the more likely there are to be variants. What is the Secretary-General's view then on countries that lift restrictions while cases are still rising? Is that foolish?
Look, the issue for the Secretary General is one, focused on the vaccines, right? And this is why he has been calling for equal vaccine access throughout the world since the vaccine was rolled out. I mean, he has been warning, I mean, like others, about the health impacts of vaccine nationalism, which is what we're seeing. So his message to the G20, to those countries that have the wherewithal, financial and technical, is to put together a global vaccination plan. You know, we will leave it to national authorities to figure out what is best for their people. They're accountable to their people. He's taking a much more global picture linked to the vaccines. Fethi and then Edie.
Thank you, Steph. I'll follow up on James' question regarding the vaccines. The Secretary General said the virus is outpacing the vaccine. Where did the almost close to 1 billion doses that the United States contributed, as well as the G7?
Sorry, say again.
Where are the 1 billion doses that's been contributed to the COVAX? And what is the problem on distributing them? Is it logistics?
Well, I mean, the problem is not on the distribution. I mean, they are being distributed. The problem is on how many doses we have for distribution and how much money COVAX has. UNICEF, I think, is running the COVAX website. It'll give you a very clear picture of where we are. But we've been, you know, we are working with every member state that is requesting our help on distribution, because it is not only obviously getting the vaccines from the warehouses to the country, it's on ensuring that the whole supply chain, the cold chain, the vaccination sites are set up. And, you know, I mean, every day today I was reading to you about Malawi, but almost every day I've been giving you updates about what we're doing in different countries to help with the rollout. Now, some countries are also getting vaccines bilaterally. They're working on that on their own. The ones who are working through COVAX, the UN country teams are assisting. We have been, you know, we very much welcome the recent donation by the US of many doses of COVAX vaccine. Some of them are already being distributed in Latin America and other places.
Still on the vaccine, before my main question on the GERD. Does the Secretary General support sort of having a vaccine passport, as the European Union introduced in July for the headquarters?
The issue of the vaccine passport, we will let WHO speak to it. What is important is whatever measures are taken in place to not increase the inequality. And there are also obviously other issues to be taken, but that's really a question for WHO.
Okay, on the GERD, does the Secretary, based on Mr. Anyanga's statement and the Secretary General previous statements on the issue, does the Secretary General support or lean towards having a time limit for the negotiations to continue among the tripartite?
I think that is an issue. I think that is to be my understanding from having read what you've read in the press about the draft resolution. That'll be up for member states to decide. For the Secretary General, it is vital that there be a negotiated settlement. He has been fully backing the African Union. We've been offering our help. He's been very involved. Ms. Anderson has also been providing technical advice as needed. You know, whether it's the Nile, the Blue Nile, or the Nile, or any river, they can be a source of discord between nations, but they can also be an amazing source of cooperation. And we have seen in other places with major rivers going through many countries where you can find mutually acceptable solutions. It's not a zero-sum game. Edie.
A follow-up on the Secretary General's statement on the 4 million COVID-19 deaths. He called for an emergency group on vaccines, including all the producers, the WHO, financial institutions, etc. Is he actually planning to convene a meeting that's going to put all of these groups together to do something?
We are very much looking to the leadership of the G20. We need countries that, let's put it simply, that have the cash and have the technical know-how to move this forward. All right, we'll go back to the regular programming, unless if you have questions. Yes, Edie, and then Benno.
My quick question was that Belarus authorities blocked one of the main online media sites today. This is another action in cracking down on the media. Does the Secretary General have any comment?
I will check on those reports because I hadn't seen it. But I mean, our basic stance for journalists to be able to do their work free of harassment anywhere is unchanged. Abdelhamid.
Just want to say Al-Ghadanfar Abu Atwan, who's on hunger strike, was released today, and thanks to the statement of the Secretary General. Thank you.
Benno.
About cross-border, it seems that the draft on the table right now contains just one border crossing. I just wanted to know if the Secretary General thinks that this would be a solution that he could live with.
There's a lot of activity in the Security Council kitchen. Let's see what comes out. What we have asked and what we have said is for the critical importance of continued cross-border delivery, and obviously also, if we can, increase cross-line deliveries. Okay. Thank you. Edie, you left your jacket, shawl, or what?